I mean, I probably will. I'm just posting to Tumblr.
Okie dokie.
I'm just posting to Tumblr. Shoot.
Okie dokie.
You just heard echo. I forgot to turn down the volume of my other computer.
Echo! My name is Ed.
Okay. Okay, so the thing is posted to Tumblr. The live stream is on, and my computer's volume is down. Hold on a second. Crap. Okay. Is everything working now?
Sounds like
Okay, I was just making sure because I was getting a second echo because I forgot to turn down my computer volume as well because I'm an idiot. But now both computers have their volumes down. The discussion should be what's called the discussion is live, and we are go. So, as always, I'm Inline Robot, Tom Raster, call me whatever, and this is the Romance Scrooge.
Yo, what up?
And today we are going. And today we are going to be talking about the two most recent episodes of Samurai Jack. So, where do you want to start? I have like I have like an entire list. Jack's inner monologue. There was that beautiful like fight scene in the snow. Then there's the entire thing about what's it called, the Daughters of a Coup. There's the fact there's and then there's just general character stuff like talking about a coup and how everything is going with him. Or how about the wolf? Anything sound interesting to you? Just starting out.
I'm kind of fascinated by how in episode 2, it starts out with the wolf, and there's this kind of thematic parallel drawn between the wolf and Jack. So the wolf represents Jack to some degree. It's a loner, kind of stoic, powerful, and the 3 great big green tigers it encounters represent the Daughters of a Coup. They're bigger. I guess the best way to sum them up here is that compared to the wolf, they look incredibly big, threatening, intimidating. But as the fight scene plays out, the wolf more than makes up for the difference in size and strength with speed and agility. But then again, I'm kind of tentative to use that kind of comparison here, since even though the Daughters of a Coup were trained since birth to the point that, well, killing the samurai is their one big goal in life, they still can't match up to the 50 plus years of experience Jack has on top of his own training and skillmanship that he learned in childhood. He just has so much skill above and beyond what they could achieve just in 20 plus years of intense, harsh training. It's kind of interesting to think about what kind of differences there are between Jack and the Daughters of Aku, skill-wise. Arguably, they are some of the toughest opponents he's had. I'm not going to call them the toughest, since Jack certainly met several ferocious matches of his own in earlier seasons. I need to go back and rewatch one of the earlier seasons, forgive me on that. But just
from
throwing
a
out how much of this was highlighted, that they're one of the most ferocious threats he's faced.
from a storytelling perspective, I actually think it's really cool that they well, I mean, spoilers ahead. Big surprise. We're talking about an episode. It's really hard to talk about the episode without going into spoiler territory. But Jack kills them all, except for maybe possibly Ashy. It's kind of left ambiguous, though. I'm honestly don't think Ashy is genuinely dead. You don't build
She's
up a
not
character.
dead.
Yeah, you don't build up a character like that only to kill her in the third episode. But you what's called Samurai Jack just straight up we're only 3 episodes in, and Samurai Jack already killed 6 of the 7 Daughters of Aku. And from a story telling perspective, he basically it's not really a character versus character thing anymore, at least with them. Or it might still be, given, Ashy's ambiguous nature, but it's becoming the what's the word? The tension, drama. Shoot, why am I forgetting the word? It's like a basic literary term. Character versus character. What's the word? I'm missing it. You know what I'm talking about?
Rivalry?
Not rivalry. Predicament. Character versus shoot. Why can't I remember it? This is like such a hey PC the Unicorn, I see you. The central conflict. Conflict is the freaking word I was trying to come up with. Conflict, such an easy word, such a basic literary term, and I forget it.
That happens to
but
me
the conflict,
all the time.
Yeah, the conflict, the conflict like turns from a character versus characters to, well, it seems to be evolving into a character versus self thing now. I mean, we already see that Jack is already having a lot of trouble with himself. Just mentally speaking, he's so conflicted with himself already, and now he's straight up killed other human beings, and that's something he hasn't done before. And I find it so interesting that that they just got rid of the character versus character conflict so quickly. That makes sense?
Yeah, even though the Daughters of Aku are a very serious threat in their own right, more the emphasis or the stronger part of the story is Jack's internal conflict. Just what moves he has to make, just the fact that the stakes grew that much larger because he's forced into a me versus them situation. I really liked what they led up to in episode 3. It was shocking enough seeing that first blood spill. Jack's first murder, or the first time he's killed a human in episode 2. Just with how much he's built up as this noble kind of, just kind of a noble hero figure in the first several seasons, to see this happen, it definitely cements what kind of tone shift season 5 has. And then seeing it followed up in episode 3, where he remembers seeing his father, a seasoned samurai who constantly had opposition coming to take the throne or oppose him in some way, how he had to deal with that kind of threat, and how he had to come up with some way to mentally keep himself stable, for lack of a better way to describe it. How he approached having to kill other human beings out of self-defense. Just what he said in regards to that, and Jack reminiscing on this, having seen this as a child, but never having to adopt this particular philosophy or state of mind before. And yeah, just
I think, and see the thing about you bring up Jack's father. Previous episodes we've seen Jack's parents. We've only ever seen them in a positive light before. This is the first time. This is the first time I recall any violence on their part of the any violence on their part of the story. And wow, it definitely makes sense for the time period. I was actually genuinely surprised that these characters who, they're supporting characters who are there for to build Jack's character. I was surprised that they were able to go a bit beyond just the we are the loving parents we need you need to come back to idea. Oh, PC asked about Aku's new voice actor. We talked about this like a few responses ago, I think. He's good. I like him. What do you think?
I like him so far.
He's he's funny. There's a bit. I'm not sure how deep a conversation we could go with it. There's some people who want to make this conversation go a little bit deeper, but I'm trying my best not to bring up some of the subjects that people have brought up online. But I like Greg. I like Greg Baldwin, and I think he does a really good Mako impression, and I think it works for Aku's character. So yeah. Okay. Other things that have occurred. Did I like seriously X out my list? I X'd out my list. Hardy har har. Let me bring it back up again. Oh. Okay, we have three interesting things to contrast here. We have three different inner monologues, so to speak. Two of them from Jack's point of view. One in the second episode and one in the third episode. And we also have another internal conflict thing going on with the coup. All three of them have their differences between them, and I noticed that immediately. Jack's visions of himself are really serious and are really serious. They touch on some of the more mature themes of the series. Aku is getting bored.
Man, you look at earlier episodes of Samurai Jack, and Aku is this eccentric, really mischievous, but otherworldly, all-encompassing force. He's all-powerful, omnipresent. The idea of him getting bored, it's kind of funny to try and wrap your mind around this, that where other works would probably take a character like this and just keep it as, oh, he's a little bit whimsical, he has a little bit more personality to where he's entertaining to watch, but he doesn't need a driving motivation or what keeps him trying to rule the universe or the world. He just does it because power. The fact that Aku has an inner monologue or something to contrast with Jack slowly going insane, him becoming bored because he doesn't have someone trying to take him down or oppose him. It's interesting just how, okay, this is probably going to sound a bit horrible on my part, but Jack's struggle is so deep and psychologically damning. He's actually considering how freeing death would be. He's honestly considered death. He's pretty much insane. He's suffering from PTSD. You have this really serious, very character driven story, and then by contrast, you have this powerful godlike being who sees pretty much everybody as some kind of plaything, something to screw around with, really doesn't have much sympathy for people because he can just bop them around because he's so powerful and he's bored. His biggest existential crisis is that he's bored. Man. It's kind of fantastic. It's kind of a fantastic contrast when you set it up that way and just think about it.
I mean, it's okay. This is one of the one of the things about Aku is that he's I'm losing it. It's on. I'm not losing it like Jack, but I'm losing my thoughts. I don't know. In a lot of stories, I don't know. I think I've heard it often said. Just in general, there's more. It's more fulfilling to want something and to chase after something than it is to actually get it. I'm sure there's like some sort of idiom in there somewhere that I'm completely missing, but yeah, there's this general idea that it's usually better to strive for something than it is to actually receive that something. In this case, I'd actually like to do a little comparison here. A lot of what Aku is going through is very similar to Megamind, if you don't mind me bringing up that movie. That. It's one of those things where, like, what happens after you succeed? Aku pretty much has it all. Aku is the Aku is rolling the planet with an iron fist, and he has everything under his control. And the only threat to him at this point in time, the future point in time, anyways, is Jack. And as Jack has become less and less of a threat to him as the years went by, mostly due to Jack being on his own and slowly going crazy by himself. Aku doesn't have much to worry about, but the fact that Jack's still alive, that's also just enough of a thing to like get on his nerve, just be a tiny little chill on the side of his back that's going to be agging at him as time goes by. Okay, I literally just thought of this like not too long, like just as we were talking. We can certifiably say that Aku is insane, right?
Yeah.
And this is a bit of a trope that I see oftentimes. I'm not sure if it's actually listed on like TV tropes or anything, but characters who are more prone to cartoon physics are usually the characters who are going slowly more, who are who are in some way insane.
Cloud Cuckoo Landers.
Yeah.
That's one brand. It really depends on how they're written and what circumstances they're in.
Well, I mean, like I'm another villainous example I can think of is Bill Cipher, by far the cartooniest character in Gravity Falls, and also probably one of the most insane. And that show's already pretty cartoony as is. Other examples of this, certain incarnations of the Joker and Deadpool. Something I'm noticing, as Jack is slowly growing more insane, you notice the transformation between the Vision Jack in episode 2 and Vision Jack in episode 3.
Yeah, there was really pronounced exaggeration in the features and his facial expressions, and just everything about him was a lot more just, yeah, exaggerated than last time. Last time he still had the sharp angles and edges that he generally has. His vision of himself or his current mental state was a fairly accurate reflection of what he looks like, just a different color palette. But here, definitely exaggerated. And not just that, his mannerisms and the way he moved and conducted himself. He definitely had shades of the Joker, one of these kinds of insane cartoon characters we're talking about. Jack's vision has some of the trademarks or calling cards of what makes Aku this insane villain.
Yeah. TV tropes referred to episode 3, the episode 3 version of Jack's what am I going to call him? I need like a name for him. Jack's Brain Jack. I'll call him Brain Jack. Episode 3 version of Brain Jack. TV tropes called him said that his movements were Adventure Time-esque. I kind of get where they were saying with that, but honestly, that version of Jack kind of reminded me of a different version of Jack from earlier in the series, Aku's Fairy Tales.
Oh my god, I need to go back and rewatch that episode. But just thinking about that one scene where he was portrayed as the big bad wolf, that is actually a much sillier version of what we see here. My god. I would love to see someone do a thematic compare and contrast and breakdown of what this means. Just oh my god, there is so much grounds for a compare and contrast and how fascinating it is that they might have even done that deliberately.
I feel like they did do it deliberately. I think one of the it's not been shown, but it's been foreshadowed in the series so far. But I think one of Jack's fears is becoming like Aku. A lot of people are interpreting that Dark Samurai, a shadow creature that Jack is constantly seeing, to be the worst version of Jack that Jack sees himself becoming. If Jack is slowly growing more insane, and we can, already say that Aku's insane, I think he's worried about becoming like him. And I feel like that's what a lot of this the transformation of his mind Jack is trying to foreshadow and trying to develop. A lot of this theory is coming out like literally right now. Like once I starting the stream and we started talking, this is something that's coming to mind immediately. It's not something I have written down anywhere. But yeah, what do you think? Do you think any potential in that being maybe a fear of his?
I'd say that that's highly likely. It makes a lot of sense, though I'm tentative to say that that's completely the catalyst behind it. There's still a lot of ambiguity and mystery to the Dark Samurai.
Like, there's some people who are interpreting it to be an actual figure of some sort that Jack might have encountered in the past. That's also possible. I'm not quite sure. There's so much mystery to that specific a character. And I'm calling him a character in the sense that, well, he's depicted as a character, but for all we know, he could just be a manifestation. He could be purely symbolic. I don't think Samurai Jack would necessarily go that route. Samurai Jack does have a symbolism, but it doesn't go to symbolism to the point where the symbols exist in a world all their own. The symbolism tends to exist alongside the actual characters. We see the wolf and survive into episode 3, and he helps Jack out quite a bit. the wolf is still symbolic of Jack, and there's still a lot of parallels between the two characters, but that wolf is a real literal figure. And Jack's hallucinations, while are less literal, they're still meant to be a depiction of something that is actually genuinely going on in Jack's mind. It's not, my point is, it's not going for deliberate mind screw territory where something is there just for the benefit of the audience. That's what I'm saying, making sense.
Yeah. Just kind of mulling over what that particular figure could be. The more I think about it, considering what intervals that figure has specifically shown up, yeah, I'm leaning towards that is highly possibly Jack's future self if he becomes corrupted or completely goes insane or something goes wrong or something like that. It pops up at specific intervals. Like the first time the Dark Samurai popped up, it was showcasing just how bad Jack's mental condition has gotten. He's torturing himself with visions of his family members and his society being enslaved by Aku and them saying, you've forgotten us. It starts out there. And then, if I remember right, didn't the Dark Samurai show up shortly after he killed one of the daughters of Aku? Or shortly before?
I don't recall that last one. I mean, it could just be my bad memory, but I don't seem to be recalling anything like that for your last example there.
No, I don't think it showed up. Just there is merit in keeping tabs on when the Dark Samurai showed up story-wise. I want to shelve that particular discussion for now and save it for when season 5 wraps up. Probably going to go so far as point out when the Dark Samurai shows up in each given episode. What particular part of the plot it surrounds, or what's happening or going on at the same time, or what preceded or what follows after it. And then, yeah, this is something I don't want to speculate too much on. I don't want to go into ridiculous fan theory territory because I'm just enjoying watching it play out and seeing where exactly it's going to go.
Yeah. Okay. There was another callback to a different episode. In this case, I feel weird saying any official name titles because there aren't actually name titles, but there are titles that float around. There was an episode that people refer to as Samurai versus Ninja. And this was the episode that features Jack facing off against a ninja using a ninja who was dressed in all black and he was dressed in all white. And there's like this really amazing fight scene towards the end of it, where the characters are using light and shadow against each other. Jack is dressed up in all white and he's hiding from the ninja in like the bright daylight, while the ninja keeps hiding in the shadows. And there's a lot of fun playing with silhouettes here. Episode 3, and I feel really silly for calling it episode 3. I kind of wish they had like episode ways I could call it something else. Episode 3, Jack utilizes the same tactic again. This time, there's no background for the ninjas to hide at all. The ninjas being the daughters of Aku. And Jack himself is pretty much invisible for like half the fight until the fog goes away, while the daughters of Aku remain visible the entire way. I mean, I don't think the callback is that deep. The callback's not that deep. It's not like foreshadowing anything. It's just a cool callback, I think, though. You recall that episode?
Yeah, just thinking about the differences between that particular episode and what built up to the fight between Jack and the ninja, and the similar minimalistic setup and fight scene between Jack and the Daughters of Aku. The interesting or key difference here is that in the fight with the ninja, Jack was trying to avoid or stealthily sneak up on and subdue the ninja. With the Daughters of Aku, he was trying to subdue them, but he really was more on the offensive than the defensive. With the ninja, he was on the defensive. Arguably, he was trying to counter the guy and take him down as quickly as possible. I don't know. I guess the biggest thing or the biggest difference is intent. With the ninja, he really was the complete clear-cut good guy taking down the bad guy. Aku's minion who go out of his way to kidnap a child to get Jack to show up and have a showdown with him. It really was a black and white depiction of good versus evil. Whereas the same iconic imagery used here, you don't have that same clear-cut good versus evil. It's the same kind of visual motif, sort of using that same minimalistic approach, showing how Jack can sneak up on and subdue his opponents. But here, there's really more shades of gray to Jack's approach here, just how tense this particular situation is, how it's really more of a survivalist thing rather than Jack taking the higher ground and being the definitive good guy.
I think this also demonstrates just artistically the biggest difference between how the original series, how the older seasons were animated and how the newer seasons were animated. While both definitely feature like this really big graphic design element, if you look at the I'm actually watching it right now. If you look at the older one, the older one has less physical depth in it and is more abstracted, while the new one takes place in a place that seems to be physically present. You can tell that even though you can't see it genuinely, you can tell that there is some semblance of a foreground and some semblance of a background in there. While in the original Samurai Jack versus the Shinobi Shadow Warrior, it's very it's full of abstracted angles and lines that don't put the fight in any real physical place. For record, I'm bringing up the video of it right now, and I'm just making sure everything I'm saying is correct. That's something I thought was true, and it seems to be correct.
Overall, how the latest season is animated, the earlier seasons definitely have some note of cinematography, different angles and perspectives to them, but the newest season, it really gives Samurai Jack some kind of depth. There's more dimensionality to it. When characters are shown from different angles or perspectives, there's foreshortening. There's a true sense of 3 dimensions. Whereas in earlier seasons, you might kind of have it implied, but it still feels kind of flat. Like a 2D character emulating 3-dimensional movements, but it's flat.
They're both cinematic, and I even hesitate to say that one's more cinematic than the other. The biggest difference is that the newest one seems more grounded, I guess is probably the best way of putting it.
Yeah, when characters are drawn, you have more of a sense of 3-dimensionality.
Yeah.
You see examples of foreshortening, and it's enhanced by shading, lighting, more of a sense of background. Like the biggest thing you mentioned there, the minimalistic approach with the Daughters of a Coup fight versus the Jack versus the ninja fight. With the Daughters of Aku, there's more emphasis on giving some kind of setting or background and placing people in space rather than just turning everything briefly into this otherworldly void.
Speaking of otherworldly, interesting that you just said that, because as I'm watching it, it literally just had a really cool transition where it went from the otherworldly void to a more grounded scene, just as I'm watching it, just by complete coincidence. It was a really good transition. Maybe I should link the video. It's not the entire episode, it's just a clip of it. But just for anyone who would be interested, and just so people know what I'm talking about, I just posted the link. Okay. And that's the link to the older episode, not the newer one. If you're watching the newer one, I'd highly recommend you watch it legally. Okay. The older episode, the ninja fight scene stylistically, wouldn't be. I think another good way of putting it is that it wouldn't be too out of place in one of the artsier limited animation cartoons. Something like from the 60s or 70s that had like a more highly graphic design to it. I imagine a similar setup. I feel like a similar setup was done in Looney Tunes before. Not with like the silhouettes, but with the way everything looks. With the staunch backgrounds. I could be wrong. I know Pink Panther played with this a little bit with Pink and White. It's not obviously the Pink Panther never had a ninja fight using this, but you have the Pink Panther going around with a pink paintbrush, and you have the Cousteau character. I assume it's supposed to be Cousteau. There's no dialogue to any of these things, and the thing kind of sort of resembles the live action version of Cousteau in a very limited animated way. He's painting everything white, and you kind of have similar ideas going on between them. It's not a ninja fight, it's not an action scene, it's built up for comedy, but a lot of the same techniques that were used in cartoons like that were used in the earlier Samurai Jack episode, whereas the newer Samurai Jack episode, you could emulate, or you could get a similar effect to that in live action if you actually attempted to do it. It'd require a really cool set to do it, but I bet you could do it in live action. Other topics. With Aku being bored, my theory that the daughters of Aku and Aku themselves are kind of sort of disconnected seems to have a little bit more support to it now. Now that we've actually seen Aku, and we know that he's not too preoccupied with assassins, there seems to be a little bit more merit to that now.
Pretty much. I just love how I love how that episode opens up with Aku lamenting being bored and stuff and wondering who could help him solve his problem, and then it immediately cuts to the daughters of Aku. Like,
I kind of love the fact that the first episode starts with an attack by Beetlebots on this poor innocent family, and then Samurai Jack kicks butt the rest of the scene. And the third episode begins with Samurai Jack floating down a river through a waterfall, blood clearly trailing behind him. And then just episode 2, arguably the darkest episode so far. Episode 2 begins with Aku talking to himself. But it's talking to some sort of yeah, mood whiplash. But this is the kind of stuff Samurai Jack does well. I love the fact that Samurai Jack is able to flip between comedy and seriousness so easily. Other things I mentioned. See, this is the part we talked about a lot of the plot points. Am I missing any serious plot points? There's a few other things, but they're all trivial things.
Don't really have anything coming to mind, no.
Okay, so we have Ashi towards the end of the 3rd episode, right as she falls. We have her yelling kill, kill, die, die, samurai, and all that stuff. You know what that immediately reminded me of?
What?
Bubbles when she thinks she's Mojo Jojo. I mean, it's the same, obviously same voice actor, but you combine, obviously same voice actor as Bubbles. You combine that with Mojo Jojo's sense of hamminess and slight Japanese accent, and the way Ashi was depicted. You pretty much what's called. I know that scene was supposed to be. Well, no, actually, that scene was meant to be kind of funny. It was a serious scene, but it was also kind of one of those comedy. It was also kind of a comedy relief. So I'm not going to say that it was. So I'm not going to say that my reaction to that was totally out of nowhere, because the scene was meant to a certain extent to be funny. But I still couldn't get the image out of my mind of Bubbles pretending to be Mojo Jojo.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd add that. Trivia. There is a remix of The Ecstasy of Gold in the 2nd episode that is featured during a scene where the daughters of Aku are searching for Jack in a coffin. And the scene's amazing. It's the music score is amazing, and you can never go wrong with the NCO Morricone soundtrack. That being said, I have no idea. I don't know anything about The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I wish I knew more. I know it's a reference. I also know that The Ecstasy of Gold has been was used in the SpongeBob SquarePants Sponge Out of Water movie that came out. It's the same soundtrack. Well, the Samurai Jack version was remixed, but it's the same original sound song that they used. They also used in like some sort of car commercial before, but I can't even remember it. I think I've heard the song way more out of the context of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly than I have in the context, because the piece is fairly well known, and I've come close to sampling it on a few occasions. But I immediately start thinking yeah, that's a thing. Oh, very small but really cool thing that happened. We had the daughters of Ku. They hopped into each other, and then they started fighting as one entity. Thoughts on that?
Kind of clever and creative how they went about choreographing that. And
first off, I thought it was really cool. Second off, obligatory fusion is a cheap tactic that makes weak gems stronger. I'm kind of curious as to how that would have worked. What are the I'm thinking that it's really just them holding on to each other's backs, literally, just holding on to each other's backs.
Trying to think about how it works and just let it be magical and
Yeah. It also Steven Universe jokes aside, it also resembles Kali, the Hindu goddess of death. Um, I'm not going to be like a big source of the things there, but that did seem like a genuine allusion to it. You have the 6 arms, each one holding an individual weapon. I don't know much about Hinduism, but I know depictions of Kali usually look like that.
Actually, I'd say that's pretty spot on. The fact that Samurai Jack was referencing Kali, that makes sense given that the daughters of Aku from birth, they had it pounded into their head, you must kill the samurai. You must kill Samurai Jack for the glory of Aku. Now, when it comes to Kali herself, I've only done some research, but there are different incarnations of how Kali is depicted. There's one specific that focuses on her as a goddess of death or war, and in these particular depictions, she comes across as ferocious, intimidating, a force to be reckoned with. She can take down entire armies or whatever comes her way. And even in some depictions of Kali, she's depicted with her partner. I can't remember exactly who that is, but she's depicted standing on top of him as this kind of dominating force, like she's the one in control at that particular moment in time.
I, thematically speaking, just the association with death, it kind of works both ways. I mean, first off, you have the obvious: they're trying to kill Jack. What better symbolic form to take on than the goddess of death? But then there's also the other fact that death comes to all, and well, most of the daughters of Aku's fate has pretty much been sealed. They're all dead. So it kind of works both ways.
Just kind of mulling over what other interpretations of Kali there are floating around out there. When I was doing research on this, it was for a different project. Can't remember exactly what it was. But it's not the way Kali is presented, her being the personification. I don't even remember right if it was death, but the way she's presented is not supposed to be a completely negative or intimidating image. Here, I think it is presented as strictly intimidating, though I want to go back and look up what other potential symbolic meanings there could be, because since they invoked that particular imagery, I'm curious to see if the other 2 daughters of Aku that were fighting with Ashi survived, and if there may be the possibility of seeing other shades or dimension to their personality alongside Ashi.
Didn't their necks crack?
There were two that fell off or just got knocked off. I don't really remember. Though, suspending that aside, whether or not they're dead, there is interesting potential to the other 2 daughters of Aku surviving and their personalities sort of being inspired by the 3 different variants of Kali. There's 3 different incarnations of this particular goddess, and each one has a different significance to it. Like, for example, aside from the intimidating warrior woman, I believe there's also one that's a nurturer or a mother type figure, sort of akin to Gaia as mother of the world, mother creator, that kind of thing. So there's a nurturing side to this particular goddess too, one that's meant to. This is really ridiculous speculation on my part, but
That'd be amazing. And now, well, I mean, see, now I'm thinking like just from a be told as a story. I mean, you kind of get the implication that um you kind of get the implication, given that Ashley is given the most characterization, that she is going to change at some point in the future. Something is going to happen to her, and regardless if this means whether this means she's going to become a neutral party, or she's going to join up with Jack, or she's going to fight a coup she's going to fight a coup for her own reasons, completely separate for Jack and function kind of as a foil. There's still kind of I still kind of get the idea that if you have her changing and you have the other sisters not changing, you can have that confrontation between them, and that'd be so interesting. I don't know. I mean, I don't. I'm not. I'm not sure if I'm completely on board with your theory because I'm pretty sure they're all dead. But there's a lot of good storytelling possibilities there. The more I think about it,
That's all I really wanted to bring up, to be honest. I'm skeptic as to whether or not any of the other daughters beyond Ashi survived. But I'd be kind of a happy camper if at least one other one did. You had some kind of point of conflict. Because I'll just be brutally honest here. With how harsh an upbringing the daughters of Aku had, wouldn't it be kind of interesting to see two of them get out of this and get beyond the kill the samurai as their ultimate life goal, see how they developed or grew beyond that, what or how their personalities would form as they interacted with the world, where Ashi opens up a little bit more and becomes a bit more positive of a person, not going to say completely positive, but develops a sense of ethics or morality. A different daughter of Aku would just become more cynical and just still remain kind of, just imagine her eyes being opened up to what possibilities and opportunities were shut out on her, and she just can't come to terms or grips with it, and just secludes herself as this incredibly
um,
bitter, cynical person, or just
could you say that last sentence again? You cut out for a little bit.
uh,
Like just the last sentence. You are like only like Todd. You are pretty clear up until then.
okay. Where I was going was Ashi is a little bit more open to experiences with other people or developing some kind of sense or code of morality. And then a different daughter of Aku, being this sort of cynical, shut off, standoffish person that's incredibly bitter and resentful about what kinds of opportunities and possibilities she had shut out because of her upbringing, and just can't really get past this particular idea.
Hmm. I mean, yeah.
Or
Uh,
just clinging that much more to the kill the samurai idea, because that's what she was raised to do. That's what she sees as the only point of living. She doesn't know how to get quite beyond that. That being another possibility, just kind of spitballing.
hmm. Okay. So I think we're about done with Samurai Jack at the moment. There's
Yeah.
two. Yeah, I mean like
Excuse me.
what one possibility is I could shut the stream off right now, or we could talk about just some of the sillier stuff that's been going on that's animation related. Like did you see the infomercial for Gravity Falls earlier today?
Uh no, I was at work.
Oh shoot. Okay. Um Mate, there was a funny infomercial. I already brought up, so I'll just say what it is. There was like a really funny infomercial that was put out by I think it was like Oh My Disney is like the name of the YouTube channel, and it was and it's like this official commercial for Journal 3. It features Kristen Schaal and Jason Ritter, um, and a surprise appearance by Alex Hirsch. And I say surprise like it was a real surprise, except for no, obviously he's going to be a part of this type of stuff. But basically, um, it's an advertisement for the books. Kristen Schaal starts off by attempting to advertise book sweaters, an alternative to book jackets, and one of the sweaters features a knitted version of her face, not Mabel's face, Kristen Schaal's face, and it's kind of terrifying looking. And then Jason Ritter pops up, telling Kristen Schaal that selling this book is not a good idea. This book is full of secrets that nobody needs to be knowing, and then that need to be kept safe. And then he starts advertising his own book safe for the Journal 3 to keep people from getting into his secrets. And then Jason Ritter acts. I say accidentally. He's acting the entire time, obviously. I don't want people to like confuse fiction with reality here. But Jason Ritter accidentally lets onto the idea that he might be secretly going crazy and secretly believes he's genuinely Dipper Pines.
That's great.
Like he introduces himself. Hey, Dipper Pines here. No, Jason Ritter. Dipper Pines is a character. He's like that. The thing's hilarious. The thing's hilarious. And then as soon as they talk about, as soon as they start getting to the information about the book, there's a shot of Alex Hirsch screaming in his Uncle Sam voice, "I bought 10!" And then he's like grabbing a whole bunch of books. The thing's just hilarious. There's not much to talk about. It's just a commercial for the Journal 3 thing, but it's so nice seeing these three amazing people back at it. I don't know. I like the infomercial, and I kind of miss Gravity Falls.
It's hard not to. It's like there's a gaping void since it left.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's just me or if it's legitimately everybody else. But I was going through Spider-Man fan art on Tumblr earlier, and like half of the Peter Parkers look like teenage Dipper Pines. No, I'm not sure if it's like people are like subconsciously doing this themselves, or if I myself am seeing Dipper Pines and Peter Parker for some reason. Then again, you also have the fact that you're talking about skinny white boys with brown hair. There's only so much
that tends to be a pretty typical character design.
They probably also look like Wirt. So But yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. So I think that's really about it. I think we're done here. See you guys.
Good night, everybody. Goodbye.